This nurse is on trial for making a tragic mistake. Nurse RaDonda Vaught was charged with reckless homicide in the death of 75-year-old Charlene Murphey at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. She was supposed to give her patient a mild sedative, but instead administered the powerful paralyzing agent vecuronium.
Guys, I'm torn. This nurse, RaDonda Vaught, should absolutely get her license revoked. She 100% should have verified that the medication she was about to administer was in fact Versed and not vecuronium. There were several systemic failures that let her and the patient down that day. But in my opinion, what she does not deserve is prison time. We have all worked in facilities that could have staffed us appropriately but didn't. Facilities that could have fixed broken equipment in a timely manner but didn't. Facilities that allowed us to take risky assignments even when we protested against it. But when we acted in good faith and made unfortunate and drastic errors, we have never been convicted of gross neglect of an impaired adult and negligent homicide, resulting in a possible prison sentence of anywhere from 4 to 8 years. For those of you that are not aware of what events led to RaDonda's conviction, I'll be going over her case, reading through some of the evidence submitted to the court. Let's go over the timeline of these events. From October 2015, when RaDonda was first licensed as a nurse and began working at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, until she was finally convicted on March 25, 2022. On October 2015, RaDonda was first hired to work at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, the largest hospital in Nashville and one of the most respected hospitals in the nation. On December 24, 2017, Charlene Murphey, a 75-year-old longtime resident of the Nashville suburb of Gallatin, checks into Vanderbilt with a subdural hematoma. On December 26, 2017, Murphy's condition improves and she's almost ready to leave Vanderbilt. During a final scan in the hospital's radiology department, Murphy is supposed to be given a sedative, Versed, but she's accidentally given a dose of vecuronium, a powerful paralyzing medication. The drug leaves her brain dead. Vaught at this point allegedly admits to hospital staff that she is responsible for the medication error. December 27, 2017, Murphy's family gathers at Vanderbilt to say goodbye. She dies at about 1 a.m. after being disconnected from the ventilator. Later that day, 2 Vanderbilt neurologists report Murphy's death to the Davidson County Medical Examiner without mentioning the medication error of vecuronium. Murphy's death is attributed to bleeding in her brain and deemed natural. Based on information provided by Vanderbilt, the medical examiner does not independently investigate the death. On January 2018, in the wake of Murphy's death, Vanderbilt officials take several actions to obscure the fatal medication error from the government and the public. The error is not reported to the state or federal officials, which is required by law. At this point, Vaught is fired by Vanderbilt University Medical Center. In early 2018, Vanderbilt negotiates an out-of-court settlement with Murphy's family that requires them not to speak publicly about the death or the medication error. The settlement is not publicly known at this time. In May 2018, Vaught begins working as a throughput coordinator at TriStar Centennial Medical Center. This is not a clinical position, but it does require a nursing license. On October 3, 2018, an anonymous tipster alerts state and federal health officials to the unreported medication error that was responsible for Murphy's death. The court records show that syringes and a vial of vecuronium that had become potential evidence in the trial of RaDonda Vaught, accused of killing patient Charlene Murphy with a medication error. October 23, 2018. The Tennessee Department of Health, which is responsible for licensing and investigating medical professionals, decides not to pursue disciplinary action against RaDonda. In a letter to Vanderbilt, the agency's investigations director says RaDonda's case did not constitute a violation of the statutes and/or rules governing the profession. On the same day, RaDonda is sent a letter saying this matter will not merit further action. October 31st to November 8, 2018. In a response to the anonymous tip, the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services conducts a surprise investigation at Vanderbilt. The investigation confirms that Murphy died from an accidental dose of vecuronium and that Vanderbilt did not report the medication error to the government or the medical examiner. RaDonda's case goes public at this point. Late November 2018, the circumstances of the fatal medication error become public for the first time. CMS releases an investigation report that details the error without identifying RaDonda or Murphy. CMS then threatens to suspend Vanderbilt's Medicare payments, crippling the hospital's revenue if Vanderbilt cannot prove it has taken steps to prevent a similar error in the future. Vanderbilt then quickly responds with a plan of correction that appeases the federal agency and secures its Medicare reimbursements. February 4th, 2019. RaDonda is publicly identified at this time when she is arrested on a criminal indictment for her alleged role of Murphy's death. She is charged with reckless homicide and impaired adult abuse. When interviewed by the Tennessean, Murphy's family members said that they would forgive RaDonda. February 5th, 2019. The CEO of Vanderbilt Hospital at this point admits that the death wasn't reported to state regulators and said that the hospital's response was too limited. Vanderbilt officials also confirmed for the first time that they negotiated a settlement with Murphy's family. The board takes no disciplinary action against Vanderbilt. On February 20, 2019, RaDonda makes her first appearance in court in her criminal case and enters a not guilty plea to all charges. The court hearing is attended by several dozen nurses, some of whom have traveled from outside of Tennessee to show their support for RaDonda. After the hearing, RaDonda's criminal defense attorney insists that Vanderbilt shares blame for Murphy's death. Her attorney says, "I think when this case is tried and the facts come out, it's a mistake and it's not all of her fault." He goes on to say there are some real systemic problems with the way they dispense medicine through that automatic dispensing system. March 27, 2019. In court records, prosecutors reveal far more details about RaDonda's case. Investigators allege that RaDonda made 10 separate errors when giving the wrong medication to Murphy, including overlooking multiple warning signs that she had the wrong medication. Court records also state that RaDonda would have had to look directly at a warning saying, "Warning, paralyzing agent," before injecting the drug. August 20th, 2019, at the request of law enforcement, Nashville medical examiner Feng Li re-examines the circumstances of Murphy's death. Now aware of the medication error, Li changes Murphy's official manner of death to accidental. On September 27, 2019, the Tennessee Department of Health reverses its prior decision to not pursue professional discipline against RaDonda. The agency officials charged RaDonda with 3 infractions before the Tennessee Board of Nursing. The agency refuses to explain why it reversed its prior decision. RaDonda is charged with unprofessional conduct, abandoning or neglecting a patient that required care, and failing to maintain an accurate patient record. July 13, 2020. RaDonda's criminal trial is scheduled to begin. Spring 2020. The coronavirus pandemic delays RaDonda's professional discipline hearing and her criminal trial. July 22, 2021. RaDonda's medical discipline hearing finally begins. During testimony, RaDonda did not shirk responsibility for Murphy's death, saying it is completely my fault, that she did not double-check the medicine she provided. But RaDonda and her attorney also argued the mistake was made possible because the flawed procedures at Vanderbilt. At the time, they said Vanderbilt was struggling with a problem that prevented communication between its electronic health records, medication cabinets, and the hospital pharmacy. This was causing delays at accessing medications, and the hospital's short-term workaround was to override the safeguards on the cabinets so they could get drugs quickly as needed. Overriding was something we did as part of our everyday practice, RaDonda said. You couldn't get a bag of fluids for a patient without using an override function. July 23, 2021. The Tennessee Board of Nursing revokes RaDonda's nursing license. March 21st, 2022. RaDonda's criminal trial begins with jury selections. On March 25th, 2022, the trial ends with the jury finding RaDonda guilty of criminally negligent homicide and abuse of an impaired adult. Now that we know the timeline, I want to briefly go over the investigative report submitted by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The report goes on to say the following. Vaught worked on the Neuro Intensive Care Unit, the NICU, and Neuro Step-Down Unit at Vanderbilt University Medical Center on November 25th to January 2018. She was terminated on January 3rd, 2018 for failure to follow medication administration procedures. Vaught was working as the help all nurse, or as some nurses may know, a float nurse. She was comfortable with that position and knew what was expected of her in that position. She was familiar with the AccuDose machines and how to access the medication held within these machines. She had worked December 25th, 2017 on Christmas Day and December 26, 2017 on the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. shifts. She stated she was not overtired. Vaught stated they were not understaffed. The NICU is always staffed. due to the acuity of the patient. Vaught said the NICU is never short-handed. She had a new orientation employee with her, Darren, but she told the night nurse that assigned him to work with her that she, Vaught, was comfortable having him with her as the help-all nurse. When Vaught went to the AccuDose machine to pull the medication to take to Charlene Murphey, she couldn't find the Versed in Murphy's profile. She checked the medication administration record, or the MAR, in a different computer and found the order was there for Versed. Since she couldn't find the Versed in the AccuDose system, she overrode the system, typed in VE, and selected the first medication, vecuronium bromide. The system asked for a reason for the override, but she couldn't recall the reason she selected. Vaught looked at the back of the vial and saw that it needed to be reconstituted, but never looked at the front of the vial. She went down with Darren to the PET scan unit and found Murphy. She verbally verified who Murphy was, but could not find the computer to scan the medication. She reconstituted the vial, gave Murphy 1 milligram, and left her with the PET scan unit tech. After administering the medication, she never scanned it to put it into the medical record. After the code was called on Murphy, and Murphy was brought back to the NICU from the PET scan unit, Vaught informed Dr. Neely and Lindsay Trantham, a acute care nurse practitioner, that she had given vecuronium bromide to Murphy. Their response was, "I'm so sorry." Mitzi Ashby, unit manager, advised her not to scan the medication. The MAR would note it. Vaught admitted that she had administered Versed before, but never vecuronium bromide. Vaught admitted to being distracted by talking to Darren about the swallow study they were going to do. Vaught admitted she shouldn't have been distracted with something other than meds at the time of the dispensing. Vaught admitted she shouldn't have overrode the system, though it is common to do so. Vaught admitted it struck her as a little odd that she had to reconstitute the medication. Vaught didn't recall anything on the vial to alert her, but she said she should have recognized the difference. Vaught admitted she was distracted. She stated she should have paid attention and shouldn't have overrode the medication because it wasn't an emergency. Vaught stated she should have called the pharmacy to check the status on the order for Versed. Vaught admitted she was thinking, "I probably just killed the patient, but what did I do to this patient if I didn't kill her? What kind of life-changing things did I just put this patient and her family through? It's a horrible situation." Vaught admitted that she had effed up. RaDonda is facing anywhere from 4 to 8 years of prison time for her fatal mistake. So, what are your feelings about the court's decision? Should RaDonda face time in prison? Is the hospital partly responsible for Miss Murphy's death? I have a feeling that this has just set a serious precedent, and nurses are going to be afraid of reporting honest mistakes because of the fear that they too may be criminally charged and convicted for those mistakes. This is yet another reason why nurses continue to leave the profession. And with that, I say good luck to hospitals that are already struggling with nursing shortages, because it's about to get much, much worse.